Alright, so today you are going to learn how to solve systems of equations algebraically through substitution, very similarly to what you did yesterday. It's important to know how to solve systems of equations through substitution because sometimes graphing doesn't work out very well. For example, if Mary charges $5.25 up front and $2.75 per hour, since those have decimals together, graphing would not be very much fun. So our first step in solving this system of equations is coming up with equations for each of these situations. So, Mary charges $5.25 up front. So right away, we can say $5.25. Okay, and $2.75 per hour. So we're going to add $2.75 per hour, and since that's a rate, that's what we're going to attach our x to. Equals y. Alright, same deal with Jane here. $3.75 up front and $3.25 per hour equals y. So we want to figure out for how many hours would both girls be charging the same amount. In order to find this, we have to solve our system of equations. Alright, so before we get started, I just want to point out a minor error here. So this is our actual equation for Jane, which we had on our last slide. So, instead of graphing, we can solve using algebra by substituting. This means putting something in the place of something else. Okay? So substituting, what we're going to put in the place is an expression. This means it might have regular old numbers, and it also might have some variables. Substituting an expression for one of the variables. So we replace one of the y's with what the other equation says it equals, then solve that equation. So, what this means is, since this equation equals y, and this equation equals y, we can say that they equal each other. They both equal the same thing. So, we can set them equal to each other. So if you take a look, we can say the equation for Mary is equal to the equation for Jane. And now we would solve for x. So, taking a look, I see that this x is smaller, so I'm going to subtract that to the other side. Alright. And solving that. Okay, so we get as an answer 0.5 or 1/2 x plus 3.75 equals, those canceled, so we have 5.25 left on the other side. Now we want to get x all by itself, so I'm going to subtract away that 3.75. Alright, those cancel, and we get as a result here 1.5 equals 1/2 x. So if we divide by 1/2 on both sides, we are going to get that x equals 3. Alright. Now remember, from looking at the graph of an equation, that a solution is an ordered pair. So we can't just have what x equals. We need what y equals also. So in order to find out what y equals, we're going to plug in a value for x and then solve and see what we get. So taking a look, we can choose whichever equation we want. I'm going to choose the equation for Mary and say y equals 5.25 plus 2.75, and instead of x, I'm going to plug in what we got for x, 3. And continuing to solve this, 3 times 2.75, we get 8.25 plus 5.25. Okay, and we end up getting y equals 13.5. All right. So now that we have both our x and our y, we can give our final answer as an ordered pair, where x equals 3 and y equals 13.5. And on a graph, it might be kind of hard to see where the 0.5 is. So it would be important to note that this would be a very handy equation to know how to solve through substitution. Alright, now I'm going to run through another example with you so you have a little bit more experience. If you know what you're doing, this would be a time where I would suggest you pause the video, solve this equation, then play it and see if you get the same answer that I do. Now again, since both of these equations equal y, we can set them both equal to each other. So we can say, we can say that 3x plus 5 is equal to 6x plus 11. Now solving this, we want to get all of our x's on one side. Make sure you're using properties of equalities, keeping both sides equal by doing the same thing. Now we want to get our x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 11. 5 take away 11, you're going to get a negative 6. You're taking away more than what you have, equals 3x. The 3 is attached with multiplication, so we have to divide. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is going to give you an x of negative 2. Negative divided by a positive is negative. Now, we're not quite done. We have to keep moving because our ordered pair is our solution. And just one number does not make up an ordered pair. So, if we take a look, we can plug in our x to whichever equation that we want. I'm going to choose the one with the 3x. So, y equals 3 times our x of negative 2 plus 5. So y equals negative 6 plus 5. So y equals negative 6 plus 5, negative 1. So now if we were to record our final answer, we would write it as an ordered pair, where our x is negative 2 and our y is negative 1. Final answer. Now, regardless of whether or not you completely understand it, and you might have a couple of misconceptions, I want you to try this one on your own. So at this time, you can pause the video, try and walk through it on your own on a whiteboard or in your notebook, and when you're ready and you have an answer, go ahead and play it again. So since both of these equations equal y, we can set them equal to each other. 10x plus 8 equals 2x plus 32. Now when we have variables on both sides, we want to make sure that our variables can get all on one side. So I'm going to subtract 2x to get that out on the other side. So those will cancel. 10x minus 2x and 8x plus 8 equals, we've got a positive 32 left over. Subtracting an 8 to get my x by itself, we will get 24 equals 8x. Getting my x by itself, we want to divide, since the x is attached to the since the 8 is attached to the x with multiplication, we end up getting x equals 24 divided by 8, which is 3. Now again, this is only part of our answer. We still need to go back and figure out what y equals. So we're going to plug it into one of those equations. I like multiplying smaller numbers, so I'm going to plug it into the one with 2x. Y equals 2 times my x, which is 3, plus 32. So y equals 2 times 3 is 6, plus 32. Y equals 6 plus 32, 38. Now this one also might be a tricky one to graph, since you have such a large number that it might not show up on your graph. Alright, and again, express your answer as an ordered pair, where your x is 3 and your y is 38. Final answer. So, that concludes the lesson. You can go ahead and get started on your homework. When you're finished with that, iExcel is always a good choice.